Here you can see the dental arcs of 3 different groups: the chimpanzee, Australopithecus, and modern human. Now, if you look at it, you will see that the dental arcade is angular in the chimpanzee, right? You can also see that in humans, it's parabolic, or an arch. And with the Australopithecus, it's in between. Not rounded yet, but not as angular. So from an angular shape, it changed to a rounded shape. With the chimpanzee, we have large canines, and there they are. But with humans, all teeth are small, the canines are not prominent. We don't need to tear our food, raw meat. There's also a gap between the canines and the incisors in the chimps. We call it the diastema. With humans, no gap. Now that gap, people, is for the canines at the top and the bottom of the jaw. I'll just show you that when the animal chewed, they would move past each other. And also in that way, grinding them and keeping them sharp, grinding them against each other. We don't have that. Our teeth are the same size, so we can bite. So we don't have a diastema. We don't have that opening. So why do we not have these canines? How does our teeth differ, or our dentition? Our teeth are more or less of the same size. We do not have a long canine or a fang, because whereas chimpanzees eat raw food that's tough and that they have to chew and tear, we don't. When we started cooking our food, the food also became softer and easier to bite off and chew, and that is the advantage, and that is also part of why the shape of the teeth changed. And you need to be able to answer a question on that.
Yeah, and I think it has been explained quite well now. So remember that when structures evolve, it's always the environment that determines and plays a huge role in how structures and even organisms, how they evolve, because that was one of the questions that I saw on our screen earlier, is that how does one or one ancestor evolve into another? It is all driven by your environment. If the environment, like here, they could control fire, they could make fire, they could cook food, and because of the cooked food, there was less tearing of food, and because the food was softer to chew, and that contributed to the smaller canines.
And remember, it wasn't that the canines became smaller because they eat cooked food. It was they eat cooked food, so it didn't matter if the canines were smaller. Do you understand? Yeah. The canines were smaller anyway. Now, if you ate raw food, you would have starved because you wouldn't have been able to eat. But now, because there is cooked food, smaller canines means that you can survive and transfer that characteristic to the offspring.
And they can even bring in natural selection with variation. There were those with smaller canines, and there were those with larger or longer canines. And so remember, anything is possible that can be asked. You must just be able to know and identify and analyze.
Yes, the prognathus, Colin.
Yeah, there you can definitely see. You see, once again, and if I can just again, we don't talk about skulls in as a whole, but because if you look at the cranium sizes, you can see. But look at the prognathus.
Prognathus, is the snout, so to speak.
Can you see that the snout is very, very? It's actually, you can see it is at an angle, and here you can see that humans, we have a flat face. It is not as prognathous as this of the Australopithecus and the chimp. So it's because of the jawline. Why is it that the jaws are so huge? If you look at the type of food that they eat, the chimps and so on, they chew a lot, they have to tear a lot, and you can see even these ridges here, it is there for the attachment of much larger muscles. And here you can see we are not as prognate. We have, can you see, they don't have the noses. We have a nose and we have a chin, which is very important. They have no chins, which makes it more possible for us also to use language to communicate. We already spoke about the ridges, but just to show you that there's the cranial ridges on top, and we have the eyebrow ridges, and here you can see we don't have that. And it's not as prominent as those of apes. Once again, all those the ridges, and you can see if you are being asked a question on it, why is it that we have a decreased size in these ridges? It's because our food is cooked, it's softer, not necessary for those big, strong muscle attachment any longer, and that has resulted in a reduced ridges for humans.
And to answer Tyrone's question, you do not have to draw the skull at all in any way. If somebody asks you a question and they ask you to draw the skull, you don't have to draw that, but you have to be able to interpret pictures of different skulls. Okay.
Yeah, they will always tell you that it is not drawn to scale, but the shape will always tell you that what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've spoken about that more than enough, and I think this is now the one where they want to know where do we come from? Who probably developed and evolved first?
Yeah, and the picture on the left is a cartoon of Charles Darwin that appeared in England by the time he wrote his books on evolution. But Darwin wrote The Descent of Man in 1871. It was published. And he talked about the fact and the relationships between us and the other, and the big apes and other primates. And he said what is today known as the out of Africa hypothesis, that he thinks that the ancestors of humans came from Africa. And it seems that Darwin is being proved right with all the fossil finds that we have these days.
But you need to understand that this book was written more than 200 years ago. And 200 years ago, I mean, we still have skeptics today. Look at how many people, and that is why this picture of Charles Darwin on the body with a chimpanzee was seen in a paper after this was released, because they actually made fun of him for saying and making this. And today, here we go, that Darwin believed that Africa would be the cradle of humankind, and
He's been vindicated, really, yes.
yeah. So let's go.